Mr. Sergeant at Arms, invite the members in and close the door. Pursuant to Senate Joint Resolution 7003, the Joint Convention of the Governor's Address will come to order. Senator Johnson.
Mr. President, I move to dispense with the roll call of the Senate and the reading of the resolution.
Without objection, the roll call of the Senate and the reading of the resolution are dispensed with. Representative Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the roll call of the House.
Without objection, the roll call of the House is dispensed with. It's my pleasure to introduce the Honorable Bill Lee, Governor of the great state of Tennessee.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor McNally. Just 2 years ago, on this day at noon, you were on this stage with me as we did an inaugural. And to those in this room, it's been the highest honor for me to get to know you, to develop the great deal of respect that I have for each one of you and for the way that you serve the people that you serve. And I'm grateful again to be here before you. To the members who are new, welcome to this group. You join a host of men and women who are committed to making Tennessee a better place. And I join with you, and I'm grateful for your being here today. So I thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you, Speaker Sexton. Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem Hale, Speaker Pro Tem Marsh. I also want to thank Leader Johnson, Leader Lamberth, members of the education committees that have worked so hard with us to get ready for this, and thank all of the members of the General Assembly. We have a shared belief that the foundation of our state is the strength of her people. As we approach 1 year mark of managing the COVID-19 pandemic in Tennessee and facing the incredible challenges that we have faced besides the pandemic, and as well as the federal challenges, challenges on the federal level, it's a common refrain to hear that this is a historic time, or this is an unprecedented time, or never before have we faced the level of challenges that we face. And in many ways, that's certainly true. But I've found that there has been no greater place for COVID-19 to cause disruption, sweeping disruption, than in our K-12 education system. This disruption has left students to navigate unprecedented challenges without the routine of learning in a classroom with the classmates and with a trusted teacher. We're meeting today because it's time to intervene for our kids who are staring down record learning losses that in the short term mean an inability for them to read on level or to understand basic math, but in the long term, these learning losses mean higher rates of incarceration. They mean higher poverty rates. Our work here this week bears great significance on the safety of our neighborhoods and the prosperity of our state for a generation. Big challenges require decisive action, which is why we have agreed to meet this week in an extraordinary legislative session. We cannot wait because our students cannot wait. It would be much simpler to hope or to assume that disruptions to school caused by COVID-19 would just come out in the wash. But unfortunately, the data, the science tells us that that's not true. Data actually suggests there are very real consequences to keeping students out of the classroom for this long. Nationally, that looks like a 50% reduction in reading proficiency, and a 65% reduction in math proficiency in third grade students. That sort of forecast is forcing an unacceptable future on our kids. And it's why we're proposing a series of reforms around learning loss and literacy. And we're also proposing a pause around some aspects of accountability. These data points are important, and indeed we've used data to make all of our decisions impacting our schools. Months ago, when critics were loud and the scare tactics were even louder, with all the reasons why we couldn't safely return students and teachers back into the classroom, we traded that speculation for science. And we followed that science down a path that would make us one of the first states in the country to get students and teachers back into the classroom in 145 of our 147 districts. Tennessee has thus become a national leader in embracing the courage to get back in the classroom and show that it can be done. I commend those districts and those local leaders and those educators for not settling for the path of least resistance and hiding behind month after month of virtual learning with no end in sight. Instead, we saw the vast majority of our schools, led by determined superintendents, put in the work that was needed for one reason: their students were counting on them. And kids have a lot to say about in-person learning or the lack thereof. In a survey of more than 20,000 school kids across 9 states, only 39% of students in grades 5 through 12 say that they learned a lot almost every day during the shutdown. 64% of students said they experienced distractions at home that interfered with their schoolwork. And worse so, Black and Latino students report facing more obstacles to learning than white and Asian students. Here's the bottom line. You can't say, follow the science and keep schools closed. You can't say, I believe in public education and keep schools closed. And you can't say you're putting the needs of students first and keep schools closed. Kids do better in school. We know that. Parents know that. And that's why I'm so proud of our districts who have kids in school. And to those that remain closed, I would offer this simple encouragement. Follow the science. Getting kids back into the classroom is imperative. But the reality is that the impacts of COVID would require us to act urgently, even if every student was back to in-person learning tomorrow. So let's talk about learning loss. Paired with a full return to the classroom, we are proposing targeted intervention to reach those kids who are falling behind in reading and math. Existing law has created an environment of too little, too late for kids who are not succeeding before the 3rd grade. So we're proposing a 3rd grade reading gate, which means that we'll make sure that students are prepared before we pass them through to the 4th grade. When we stop this cycle of passing without preparation, we give kids a better chance of succeeding in middle school and beyond. Our proposal also includes a full-time tutoring corps, after-school camps, learning loss bridge camps, and summer learning camps. Upon passage of this proposed legislation, we will be prepared to execute and administer these targeted interventions beginning this summer. Now let's talk about literacy. So much of our success in K-12 hinges on building better readers. When only 34% of Tennessee students are proficient or advanced readers by the 4th grade, and that's pre-COVID, something isn't working. and it's time to get back to the basics. We need to teach our kids to read with phonics. It's the way we learned to read, it's the way we taught our kids to read, and with this proposal, kindergartners through third grade will be taught phonics as the primary form of reading instruction. And to make sure that our progress is on track, we developed a screening tool to help parents and teachers identify a struggling student more quickly. Simple methods like phonics serve our kids better. Commissioner Schwinn knows it, I know it, and that's what we should be doing and will be doing in Tennessee. We believe that these tools will work for our students, but we have to have a clear picture of their starting point to get a window into the progress that they will make. So we'll keep the TCAP testing in place for the 2021 school year so that parents and teachers know where their students stand. However, there will be no negative consequences associated with student assessments so that the focus can remain on getting the firm footing back in place after the uncertainty of time away from the classroom. To be clear, no teacher will be penalized, no district will be penalized due to test results in this school year. But we'll be relying on teachers and districts like never before to help us get these kids back on track. This approach isn't going to be easy, but as leaders, we must do what it takes for our kids. We're pursuing both bold interventions and a return to the basics. And for any of these goals to come to fruition, we have to account for our teachers. We're proposing additional funding through both an appropriations bill this week and our upcoming budget to give a pay raise to every single teacher in Tennessee. We're proposing to increase the salary component of our funding formula by 4%. And this is not just about compensation, this is an investment in better outcomes for our kids. We should all place an expectation on school districts that these dollars get passed directly to our teachers. In the last decade, our students have made great strides in both reading and math, and yet the events of this last year stand to threaten all of that progress that's been made. We aren't where we want to be as a state, but we have a tremendous opportunity here and now, not only to stave off a monumental crisis, but to forge a new path. Our new approach isn't just about making up the losses. These changes to our education system will actually educate our kids better in the future than we were before the pandemic. And that is a redemption story for our education system. And it'll have ripple effects on all of our students' lives for decades well beyond the classroom. Thank you for your time today. Most importantly, thank you for your careful consideration of each one of these proposals in the days ahead. We should not miss this opportunity. And together, we can change the future of Tennessee. Thank you.
The purpose for which the Joint Convention was assembled has been accomplished. The Joint Convention stands and dissolved.